wonderful day for spring training baseball, brought to you by McDonald's. And since 1969, Pirates fans have been loving coming to this friendly city of Bradenton, Florida to see their Pittsburgh Pirates. And we are so happy you could join us the first of a dozen games here on Root Sports, newly named Lee Com Park here in Bradenton, Florida. It's the Pirates and the New York Yankees. The Bucks will host the Yankees in April at PNC Park. Greg Brown along with Steve Blass. Again, glad you could join us. And Steve, today's pitching matchup features on the Pirates side the former Yankee Ivan Nova.
Yeah, and that's the theme of the day, Greg. We're all excited about having him for an entire year. He did such a great job last year coming over for the Yankees, and the phenomenal numbers that he put up was something like 59 strikeouts and 3 walks. That's absolutely incredible. So we're hoping he can build on that, and that'll really solidify the top part of the rotation with Cole and Tyone. Ivan Nova, we're excited to see him today against his former teammates. So it should be a lot of fun here in Bradenton, Florida this afternoon.
And Josh Bell will make his first spring training start. We'll have it for you, the Pirates and the New York Yankees coming your way from Lee Com Park in Bradenton, Florida. First pitch coming up in a moment. Setting for spring training baseball. Pirates, Yankees from Bradenton, Florida. First of a dozen spring training games here on Root Sports. We check out the Yankee lineup. Joe Girardi's club. Brett Gardner, Jacoby Ellsbury, Starlin Castro, and Greg Bird hitting cleanup, and Chase Headley to follow. Aaron Judge is the DH. Last year, 19 homers, 65 RBIs in the minors. Aaron Hicks, Austin Romine, Jorge Mateo, the starting 9 for the 9-2 Yankees this spring. The Pirates are 7-3. The Yankees beat the Pirates in Tampa yesterday, 3-2. And the former Yankee, Ivan Nova, who made 11 Pirate starts after being traded over from the Bronx to the Berg. And as Steve said, tremendous control numbers, 3 walks and 65 innings.
Amazing. I mean, that's just so far off the charts. Not even fun. You know, you consider the 11 starts he made for us, Greg, 26 for the Yankees, 37 starts. So we're talking durability, too. First outing of the spring on the 8th. Was 6 up and 6 down. Overall numbers between the Yankees and Pirates.
Brought to you by UPMC. Milwaukee behind the plate. Sees that one up, and it's 2-0.
We've never seen him this wild.
Ball's going to be out of play. 2-1 count now on Brett Gardner. Now 33 years old. 261 last season. And that's popped up. Left fielder Barrett Barnes will make the catch. Several Pirates are gone because of the World Baseball Classic. So Barrett Barnes playing left field. See the wind blowing in toward left, actually.
Yeah, kind of unusual. Have a little bit of a pitcher's wind. Usually it's blowing out somewhere. So going to be an adventure with balls in the air because it's a high sky. You saw Barnes fighting it. So could see some adventures.
So Austin Meadows will see some playing time while Andrew McCutchen and Starling Marte and Gregory Polanco participate in the World Baseball Classic. And right away, on cue, Meadows makes the play. 2 fly ball outs. On to defense. You saw Barnes make the play in left. Austin Meadows in center. Adam Frazier is playing right. And Josh Bell, after knee surgery a few weeks ago, playing his first spring training game. Chris Bostic is at second base for the Pirates. Jordy Mercer, David Freese on the left side of the infield. And there is Elias Diaz behind the plate. Francisco Cervelli playing for Team Italy in the World Baseball Classic.
So we keep our fingers crossed about good health for the guys who have departed to be involved in that tournament. I think every major league team has got their fingers crossed, keeping people healthy.
No doubt, every GM. Starlin Castro, his second season coming up as a Yankee, the former Cub.
Looks like Addison Russell has taken over very nicely for Mr. Castro over the Cubbies.
Beautiful day. Folks from Root Sports on hand. Guests.
Well, it's been a spectacular spring weather-wise. The Pirates have not lost any time. It's been just phenomenal. The last 4 or 5 days has been very breezy, but other than that, one of the best winters, if you will, for the people here in Bradenton. We've been talking about it, how good it's been.
77 degrees at game time. And they check over there. No swing. Tom Hallion, Chad Fairchild, Jeremy Remack on the bases. Bill Welke behind the plate. Ivan Nova. Many wondered whether the Pirates would be able to re-sign Nova after that tremendous second half for the Pirates. And another fly ball, and this one really being pushed down by that wind. And a pop-up that drops in for a hit for Castro.
Yeah, there were unbelievable numbers flying around about length of contract, the numbers, salary-wise, the cash involved. But the Pirates found a way to put him under contract. Makes a nice trio at the top of the rotation with Cole, and Tyone, and Nova.
Ivan Nova will have the honor of starting the home opener for the Pirates on April the 7th against the Atlanta Braves. Open the season April the 3rd against the Red Sox. Interleague play at Fenway, and Garrett Cole will start game 1. There's Greg Bird up there for the Yankees. Missed all of last year with a left shoulder injury, had season-ending surgery.
And if there's a theme around this ball club, it's just solidifying the rotation. I think everything else comes in second after that. That's going to be the main focus the rest of this month.
And a very high pop-up.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, everybody has to be ready. And In this case, Chris Bostic, the second baseman, makes the play. Scoreless top of the first for Nova. Bucks come to bat against the Yankees. Against the Yankees.
The things that they have done in this ballpark since we came here in 1969 have been phenomenal. Not just the boardwalk, not just the big message board, the improvements of all the facilities, the training areas, the clubhouse, the surface of the field. It's become one of the highly regarded Florida spring training sites.
Tom Prince is managing today. He managed the club yesterday with Clint Hurdle absent for a couple days as Hurdle is attending the funeral services of a longtime Norfolk and Tidewater Tides general manager Dave Rosenfield, passed away recently at the age of 87. So Tom Prince, who's the bench coach for the Pirates this year, former Pirates catcher, and he has managed in the minors with the Bucks. Princey is managing today for the Pirates with Adam Frazier leading things off and starting in right field for the Bucks. And another pop-up. See how Gardner handles it. He's there.
By the way, Tom Prince, so many people so happy for him as he's worked his way up through the minor leagues, done all the correct things, and here he is.
RAV4 starting lineup. Jordy Mercer comes to the plate. Josh Bell will get his first spring training at bat in a moment. David Freese, Elias Diaz behind the plate. Chris Bostic at second. And Austin Meadows in center. Barrett Barnes and Ivan Nova. This is the first day the Pirates have their pitcher batting. They had been using the DH, but now as spring training rolls along and pitchers go deeper in ball games, Clint Hurdle wants his pitchers to get some at bats. Jordy Mercer.
The Yankees are going with the DH, so they have that option. Brian Mitchell on the mound for the Yankees. Highly regarded young right-hander, throws very hard, 95-mile-an-hour fastball to Jordy Mercer. Missed almost all of last year with a foot injury. Just 5 starts for the Yankees, 1 and 2. And the Yankees last year, 84 and 78.
Again, these two clubs will hook up during the regular season. Interleague play. The Yankees come back to Pittsburgh. And a ground ball to Castro. 2 outs. Jordy Mercer grounds out to second. And now Josh Bell will come up. And today's Allegheny Health Network injury update. Josh Bell surgery on his left knee a few weeks before camp started, and just to remove some loose bodies, and that was about a month ago. First game action. A lot of time left in camp, so he will be ready for opening day. The switch hitting first baseman Josh Bell, in 128 at bats last year, hit .273. play made by the pitcher Mitchell to set down the Pirates in order. One complete from Bradenton, Florida. 0-0.
Spring is here, and individual tickets
Day in Florida as we welcome you back to spring training baseball here at the Buccos and the Yankees, presented by McDonald's on Root Sports. I'm Robbie Mikowski, and I'm standing out here in center field. And Steve alluded to this just a couple moments ago, the brand new video board that was put in place a month ago. It is 45 and a half feet wide, 25 feet tall, and it weighs over 12,000 pounds. And it is a beautiful new addition here to Lecom Park, home of the Pirates' spring training facility. Now, it's operated by a 6-person crew headed up by Nate March, who does a fantastic job here with the Bradenton Marauders. And the project cost was made possible by the Pirates' relationship with the Bradenton Convention and Visitors Bureau, this county of Manatee, and the city of Bradenton. Great stuff as we get a look at Nate March and the great job that he does. It's really a fantastic addition. What's amazing, in addition to the board itself, Greg and Steve, is the fact that this thing was erected in just 1 week from start to finish, and it's fully operational. The pixels are separated by just 15 millimeters apiece, so it's pretty legit in terms of the video quality. You could see it in the bright, shining sun, clouds, no matter what, you could see it. It's really a nice addition here to the ballpark. If anybody comes down here for a visit, you'll see it. Guys?
Thanks, Robbie. Good to be back with gang here on Root Sports, and great to be back here at the newly named Lecom Park. McKechnie Field for a long time, named after a former big league manager who was a Bradenton resident, Bill McKechnie. They call it the Bill McKechnie Clubhouse now, beyond the right field stands, as Aaron Judge fouls a pitch off. Lecom, an acronym for Lake Erie College of Osteopathic Medicine. Main campus in Erie, PA. Also have a location, Lecom at Seton Hill in Greensburg, and a branch campus here in Bradenton. Aaron Judge, the big 6'7", 282-pounder, the DH today, in a battle with Aaron Hicks for a right field job.
Imposing board, and really a lot of great things being done very quickly. 1 week to put that thing together. That's amazing. Well, I think to get those kind of pixels, you got to really be good at what you're doing.
Quick work with those pixels.
Yeah.
Ties them up.
One of the great things about Noah, he's so big, his delivery and motion looks very, very smooth, very effortless. There's no hurrying with it. And this ball, look at the target on the inside part of the corner, a little movement on that fastball. It doesn't get much more perfect than that with control. That was a pitch of beauty.
So Nova picks up the strikeout, and now Aaron Hicks.
And as we said, first time out for Yvonne, 6 up, 6 down.
Figures to be stretched out to 3 innings. We'll chat with the Pirates pitching coach today. In the top of the 3rd, Ray Searage. We'll chat with him in the bottom of the 3rd.
Later on, it's going to be a treat for me. We got a special guest coming in later on, former teammate and really good friend. But that's coming later in the ball game.
Gene Michael will stop by in the booth.
The stick.
Here's Ray Searage. Still a crowded bench, even with all the guys heading out to various locations for the World Baseball Classic.
And guest instructors, and coaches, and players, support personnel.
Ball for a rare walk. Ivan Nova, not part of the Dominican team yet, but he is part of that reserve pool. As the games go on, if the Dominican team continues to win and play more ball games, they very well could call upon Ivan Nova.
Well, if it's a reserve pool of Dominican pitchers, it's a very crowded pool. They got plenty of people.
So Austin Romine takes a strike.
Yeah, there's plenty of Dominican pitchers from which to choose.
There is a limit on the number of players you can put in your pool, each team. That World Baseball Classic got underway very early this morning in Korea, early Eastern time, as Team Israel beat Korea 2-1. Joe Girardi, Yankees manager, trying to get them back to a postseason, get them a win. They haven't won a postseason playoff game in 4 years. Here's that game Israel wins in 10-1.
0-2 for Ivan. See what he tries to do here. Well, give up a base hit. You never want to do that 0-2, but it happens.
So players involved in the World Baseball Classic, some big leaguers, some minor leaguers, mainly watching Andrew McCutchen and Josh Harrison play for Team USA. And for the Dominican, Gregory Polanco and Starling Marte, they have joined their respective teams, as has Francisco Cervelli for Team Italy, Eric Wood as a non-roster invitee, and the others could play part of the designated pitchers pool. Those are minor league players. So we will see how that goes. Israel playing the Chinese Taipei late tonight on the MLB network. Jorge Mateo jammed. Bounces it to the second baseman, Bostic. A walk and a hit. That'll do it. 0-0 into the bottom of the second. Donalds.
That's beautiful baseball right there.
Beautiful out of the island, Anna Maria, and here inside Lecom Park. Glad you could be with us for a spring training game on Root Sports. We'll have a bunch for you. Pitch is taken for ball one, David Freese. Getting the start at third base. Hard the other way. A lot of success doing that last season. Leadoff hit for the veteran, David Freese.
Just push it the opposite way. Down and away. Don't try to pull it. We did see a lot of that last year.
Here is Elias Diaz. And with Cervelli gone for Team Italy for a time, well, Diaz going to get some more playing time. They're still being very, very slow in bringing Chris Stewart back. He's ready to play, but they won't push it. Pirates backup catcher. In the meantime, catcher of the future gets a chance, and he's hoping for a healthy season. Last year cut short with the elbow surgery. He is still considered a top prospect. And don't forget about Elias Diaz. He got some pop, and he's still got that very strong arm.
Did it go from Elias to Elias? I remember saying Elias all last year. Well, get that all squared away when he gets established. He'll let us know.
Yep. 2-1. Ellie, you can call him Ellie.
Like Ellie Howard.
There you go.
Yeah. Austin Howard, the great Yankee catcher. That would be a compliment.
So Diaz, who played just 25 games at AAA Indianapolis last year and has played in the big leagues very, very briefly last couple years. 1 game last season, 2 games in 2015. 26 years old, from Maracaibo, Venezuela.
Building up that pension time.
Hard hit into center.
Well, I don't think there's been any question about his catching abilities and what he does behind the plate. You want him to hit, and if he becomes accomplished in that category, you're going to see a really good Major League Baseball player.
And again, he is solidly built. He has some strength. First and second with nobody out.
A couple of good examples of hitting a baseball and being a good hitter, not trying to pull the ball, going where the ball's thrown to you. Freeze to right, Diaz up the middle.
Now Chris Bostic for the Pirates. 3 for 8 this spring with a home run. He was picked up from the Washington Nationals late September. And will provide the Pirates with some depth. Utility type player. Spent last year at Harrisburg and Syracuse. And you need a program these days with all these players in camp. And another base hit.
Yeah, a little soft serve. That'll score 1. No, it will not score 1.
This will load them up. And with nobody out, Bostic singles to left.
I thought he hit it easy enough where it was going to take a while to get out to the left fielder, but they hold him up. Nobody out, and he take any risks.
And spring training also a good time for guys like Joey Cora, former big league player who is the third base coach for the first time this year for the Pirates. And no sense, risking with nobody out.
Going to make the hard turn just in case.
There's Joey Cora, Pirates' new third base coach, infield instructor. Kamara Barti is the new first base coach and outfield instructor. Loaded up for Pirates top prospect Austin Meadows. A couple of hits and 9 Grapefruit League at bats. Austin Meadows, first round pick. 9th overall choice a couple years ago. Atlanta native. That's what he did last year. 87 games. This is really what spring training is all about, and it's fun to watch the big leaguers play, but they know what they're doing. They're the established players like McCutchen, like the others, even in Ivan Nova, Steve. They're getting their work in, getting ready for bit. But these guys, this is the future of the Pirates here. It's fun to watch these players.
Every time they come up to the plate or take the mound, it's very exciting. Because a lot of these guys, you don't think so much of if, you think of when. The real blue chippers like a Meadows, like a Glasnow. And so it's not just a matter of getting up. It's proving something. See Barnes in the on deck circle. It's going to be a great thing for him to get in these games, because you got to find ways to make them impress the brass, make them remember you. And you know, sometimes you can have a spectacular spring training and you can force your way into a situation where somebody gets hurt. It's more important for them. It's more exciting. It's a bigger part of the year for them, because this starts it all. The other guys are going to be ready.
It's so interesting to think about each player's mindset here. Individually, what is their approach to spring training? And so, yeah, for a guy like Meadows, who hits this ball the other way, and this will drive in a couple. There you see the Pirates' top prospect deliver a double.
Yeah, a little slice and dice just inside the chalk. I thought that might get pushed into foul territory, but the race was on. No real reason for anybody in the bases to hold up, because they had everything in front of them, and there's no real risk. It was either going to be 2 bases or foul ball. That ball is not going to be caught.
Bostic to third. David Freese got the inning going with a base hit to right. And Diaz single to center, Bostic to left, and Meadows goes the other way with a double. Oh, Barrett Barnes now. Supplemental first round pick of the Pirates 5 years ago to Texas Tech. Barnes, a non-roster invitee to spring training. Take another look at the Meadows hit.
Down and in, just kind of inside out the ball. Breaking ball. It was trying to chase to that back foot. Fought it off nicely and was able to keep it in fair territory. You were talking about the mindset of players, and how about the 2 new coaches that you were talking about? You know, they're getting their feet wet in these spring training games, and they don't want to make too many mistakes. They've got this privilege, this opportunity to really shine during the course of spring training a little bit, but more importantly, the regular season.
And both Barti and Cora spent time in the Pirates minor league system. Now, Barti's been around the Pirates organization for a lot longer than Joey Cora, but this is his chance to see current big leaguers, you know, what kind of breaks they get off the bags, what kind of base runners they are, as Barti will work with the base running. And a chopper. Mateo will throw out Barnes, who gets the RBI. Bostic scoring, and Meadows to third. 3-0 Pirates. Productive out for Barrett Barnes. And now Ivan Nova.
And the Yankees will shorten up, and Cora over to talk to Austin Meadows, just in case the Pirates want to get a little tricky here.
Nova had 3 hits his time with the Pirates last year.
be classified as a wave.
Important for these starting pitchers to see this live pitching. Try to help themselves in the regular season.
Mr. Mitchell trying to leave the runner at third base and record a second out. His opportunity against his mound opponent. A fastball at 95 miles an hour.
That takes care of that. The second out. First K for Brian Mitchell. Get access to all the Pirate home games in April and May after opening day with the new Pirate Spring Ballpark Pass. Includes 26 home games, free shirt Saturdays, the Yankees series, plus Fan Jam with Flo Rida. All for only $159. Decide when you want to go. Your tickets will be delivered via the MLB.com ballpark app. Visit pirates.com/springpass. That's again 26 home games, April and May, for $159. Best deal going by far. And the Yankee series, the weekend series, April 21st, 22nd, and 23rd, will be followed by the Cubs. And now Adam Frazier will be thrown out. The throw from Mateo forces Bird to have to make a tag play. The Pirates score 3.
Pirates Spring Training Baseball on Root Sports is brought to you by the McDonald's mobile app. Get tasty offers sent to your phone each week when you download and register the McDonald's mobile app. By Bordas & Bordas, official legal partner of the Pittsburgh Pirates. And by Day Automotive. We're going to make your day. Let's go Bucks!
From Bradenton, Florida, the Pirates and the Yankees.
Glad you're here. The Yankees pack them in. They travel very well in Florida. It's a packed house today.
Figure there'll be a packed house at PNC Park.
Oh,
April,
yeah.
21st, 22nd, 23rd, a weekend series against these Yankees.
Yeah, catch that whole package like you're talking about. Yankees and the world champion Cubs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty good back-to-back stuff.
Well, that's really just the beginning of that great package. The Washington Nationals will be in May. The Mets. A lot of people like the Mets. The Diamondbacks. People think the Diamondbacks will have a rebound season. Brett Gardner. Against former teammate Devon Nova. Nova said it really wasn't a tough choice for him to re-sign with the Pirates. He loves his catchers. Former Yankees, Francisco Cervelli and Chris Stewart. Loves the team, the concept, the fan base, the city. So the Pirates re-signed him a 3-year, $26 million deal. He was a free agent after last season.
How many times has Neil Huntington pulled that kind of thing off? You know, through the years, gotten the good players, good deals for them. This was one that we didn't think was going to happen. Not all of them work out, but we're hoping this one will.
We'll talk to Uncle Ray next half inning, bottom half of this third. Back to Nova. Whoops.
A little too casual there.
He was feeling it a little bit, I think, getting hit by that line drive, and now Todd Tomczyk, the Pirates trainer, going to come out and check on him.
Two-base error.
It looked like it got mostly gloved.
Yeah, it did. I don't think it's going to be anything serious, and it's not.
But you wonder, Steve, and I think it maybe clipped his hand just a little bit after it deflected off his glove. And you would know this now. You're scrambling for the ball, but in the back of your mind, there's probably still a little bit of fear. Like, did that really get me good?
Yeah, numb maybe. Yeah, you're not feeling it. Yep. And there also might be an occasion where Nova made a deal with Todd Tomczyk to get some FaceTime.
TV time.
Yeah, sure.
Why not?
Yeah. Anything back to me on the mound,
Yep.
come out and check.
Yep. Ellsbury.
Didn't seem to affect the breaking ball there.
Mm-mm. Well, that's
Might have been a cross up there.
yeah.
Might have signaled for the breaking ball and the fastball. It'll happen that way more than the opposite way. Usually if you signal for a fastball and you get the breaking ball, you have a little bit of time to adjust. But if you're looking for the hook and get the heat, that kind of thing can happen. A little conference after that might confirm it.
Yeah. Little cross up.
So Ivan not really helping himself out here in the top of the third.
You saw Josh Lindblom starting to loosen in the Pirates bullpen. He'll be next, and depending on how many pitches Nova throws, we could see him during this inning.
Do they official score this kind of game? Is that a WP or PB, pass ball, wild pitch?
Yep, let me just check and see
Okay.
what that was.
I just have to,
Wild pitch is WP, but I don't know.
sometimes they don't do much with this,
No.
that kind of stuff. Everything's a WP. If it gets past the catcher, it's a WP,
Yep,
wild pitch.
First reaction.
PFP.
And dropped by Nova. Boy, he's had a terrible inning here defensively.
He's trying to get an interference call by the runner.
Now they're
from the
saying
umpire.
the Pirates didn't think Ellsbury hit the bag. So
okay.
if it dropped, Nova dropped it, they went ahead and tagged Ellsbury thinking he didn't hit the bag. So the run scores, it's 3-1.
Might have been one of the most tainted runs we've seen in a while. Tries the scoop. No, tries the tag.
And he does not hit the bag there. If you are keeping score, that was a WP, wild pitch. And there's an E1 RBI. Man,
It's Nova,
one of the worst
Nova show.
innings.
That's a really nasty looking run.
My gosh.
Don't hit the ball to Nova.
Yeah, really. Boy. Starlin Castro at the plate with a run in.
Ivan doesn't appear to be terribly distressed about it.
Nor should he be.
Correct.
He really did take to the Pirates. 11 starts, 5-2, 3.06 ERA, 65 innings, 3 walks.
Incredible.
And throughout the history of the Pirates, the top control numbers of any starter who went 50 or more innings in a season. And our barrel leaderboard shows you where he did rank once he joined the Pirates.
That ratio, strikes to ball, walks, strikeouts to walks, 17-1. Should be more than that.
Three complete games. One of those was rain shortened, but still.
Still a delight.
Yeah, 3 complete games and 11 starts. Castro, who singled in the first. Ivan Nova, now 30 years old. San Cristobal in the Dominican Republic. Got to the big leagues with the New York Yankees in 2010. And traded over last year for a couple of minor leaguers. Castro chases and ball gets away, so the wild pitch after the strikeout has Ellsbury at second.
The beat goes on for Ivan, even with a strikeout.
Yeah.
Is the problem. But the thing is, he has embraced the Pirates so much. He even has his hair the same Pirate colors, black and gold.
Yep. Nice touch.
It is. I think it's a message to the Pirates that he's happy to be here. And I think Rivera out of the bullpen is happy to be here.
Yep.
Same
Felipe.
Color combination.
And Greg Bird, big man, hits one into the wind. On many days here at Lee Com, that ball's past the boardwalk. So 2 outs. Nova going to try and complete 3 innings. Well, one great day from last year, brought to you by Day Automotive. 5th start after being acquired the trade deadline. He goes up against the Astros and goes the distance. 1 run, 6 hits, struck out 6. First of his 2 9-inning complete games that Nova had for the Pirates last year.
Dominating.
Chase Headley takes a strike. .251 hitter last year for Headley. After 7.5 years with the Padres, he was traded to the Yankees in the summer of 2014.
Did I hear you say at one time back in the day that the Pirates might have had some interest in Headley?
They did.
Yeah.
Reportedly.
Yep.
And why not? I mean, in 2012, he had 31 homers, drove in 115. But the Padres and Yankees really have not seen that player. Certainly any season approaching those numbers.
Hey,
Chase Headley.
All you got to do is cash in 1 year, have one big year, and you can write a big ticket. This is one of those situations you want Nova to finish him off because you don't know how close he is to the pitch count other than very. There we go.
See how Barrett Barnes handles this win, pushing it toward the line, and he will make the catch in fair territory. So there's a 3-inning stint for Ivan Nova. We'll talk to his pitching coach, Ray Searage, coming up. And welcome back. UPMC scoreboard 3-1 Pirates. Yankees score an unearned run in the top of the third. And as promised, we're joined by the Pirates pitching coach Ray Searage. Ray, thanks so much for being with us. Typical spring training for you.
Yeah. Well, there's a little bit more excitement in the air than last year. And we have such a vast majority of talent and trying to line them up and set them up and get them going. It's really exciting.
That's not the first time we've heard that, Ray, from some folks inside that clubhouse, that there is a quiet confidence this year that, for whatever reason, last year you guys weren't feeling it like you're feeling it this year.
Yeah, it's kind of weird the way the game goes sometimes. And, you know, last year we worked really hard. We did, but some things didn't click, and it just kept going that way, that it didn't click. And this year I think everybody's got something to prove, and the whole team, whether it be the pitchers or the position players, there's a different aura about them this year.
Ray, how neat is it to have a season that you're looking down the barrel at and have Nova for the whole year?
That's great. I hit the lottery.
Yeah.
You know, he's going to be so influential to the younger kids too, and they're not kids, they're young men. But he's going to be able to really explore the experiences that he has and help these guys out and let them know that it's okay if something happened this way and that way, not to get all twisted. And, you know, he's done it already. I mean, he's been a quiet leader. He's not one of these guys with pom-poms, but he's quiet behind the scenes, and he'll have one-on-one conversations with Cole, with Tyon, with Poole, with Brault, with Williams. They already happened, and it's been nothing but positive stuff.
Have you ever seen an example of control like he brought over from New York?
No. You know, when he did, gosh, it was just amazing. He could put the ball anywhere he wants to on both sides of the plate, and then just watching him go to work, he was so calm, cool, and collected, and his focus was on the one pitch, and then turned the page and worked on the next pitch. And, you know, he was quite an inspiration for those young guys.
Coming into spring training this year, Garrett Cole, last year he was a little compromised. How is he looking and feeling early on?
You can tell by my smile. He's healthy. We're working on some things that he is really grasping a hold on.
How about Jordy Mercer there, Ray?
Yeah.
Lining one over the left field wall.
That was a tomahawk.
Yeah.
That was
his second home run of the spring.
Oh, I'm so happy. This guy is so underrated.
Agreed.
You know, just because he's not flashy or does all these big numbers and everything, You know, he is so underrated, and I love him to death. I'll take 10 of them. But getting back to G, being healthy, we're able to do things that he couldn't do last year. And I've said this so many times in different interviews, too, that he tried to work through it. He busted his tail to work through it. It just didn't happen. He couldn't do it. It was the first time he ever got injured. But this was, you know, it started with a little rib injury over the winter. And then the elbow acted up because the mechanics changed. And, you know, it just didn't work. And I give him a lot of credit, man, that, you know, he tried to battle through it. And, you know, we finally said, no, we're just treading water here.
Is it easier for you as a pitching coach in spring training to watch a guy like Nova, who knows what he has to do to get ready for the season, as opposed to, say, a guy who's battling for a spot in the rotation? You a little bit nervous, for example, when you watch a guy like Tyler Glass now who's trying to win this 5th spot?
Yes, I am. You know, I wish them well. I want them to do well, because if everybody does well, we all do well, and as a team collectively. So, yeah, you know, Nova, I know I can't let my guard down. I got to, you know, keep on its keys, you know, and with the younger kids, you know, I just want them to get the ball rolling, and usually in spring training that could be enhanced by good outings and good sequences when they go out there and be consistent that way. And you know, it's just not Glass. It's Brault, it's Williams, you know, even Hutch trying to work on getting his mechanics back from last year. So, you know, there's a lot of things that are going on, and I wish them all well. And, yeah, I'm on the edge of my seat with some of them sometimes.
You know, we're showing a graphic now of the guys he just mentioned that are battling for that 5th spot. We'll assume, even though Ray and the Pirates won't announce it, that Chad Kuhl probably is in there for one of those 4 spots. So it's Brault, Glass, now Hutchison, and Williams, for all intents and purposes, battling it out for that 5th spot. But I'm also amazed, Ray, at how you keep track. I mean, there are so many players and pitchers in camp that you're trying to work with. This is it's an unbelievably busy time for you, obviously.
No, it is, but I love it. I couldn't think of doing anything else. But, you know, after so many years, you know, that you get groomed in the minor leagues and then you come to the major leagues, it's almost the same thing, but the changes or the corrections that you have to make are minimized here, because our development staff down in the minor leagues does one ton of a job. It's tremendous, and it makes it easier for my job up here to help them exceed and try to get them to grow as a major league pitcher. But there's a lot of stuff you got to remember, and that's why sometimes I might look like I'm a block punt.
Never, Ray, never. I want to ask you about Tony Watson, too, because that was a very abrupt transition last year.
Yes.
Coming into spring training, a better feel for him about what his job is going to be?
Yeah. I think I told you the first time he went out there for the save situation as a closer that he goes, Ray, I never thought the adrenaline rush would be so great. I said, well, after the first one it'll start tapering off. You'll be able to handle it under control. And I go, why do you remember? You used to come in as a setup guy and you used to face 2-3-4 or 3-4-5. And then Mark would come in and face those guys. So it doesn't really matter. You're still going to have to make pitches. And it's the 9th inning. Big deal. You go do your thing. And this is a transition that you're going to have to get through, and I know you can. You're going to be fine.
So do you think he's preparing then maybe differently, different mindset, Ray, coming into the spring training?
Yeah, I would definitely think a different mindset. Probably not so much as he prepares himself for the season, but the mindset is the key. And I think he's there already, and we're going to get him his work, and I think going to be fine. He's such a solid, and he's a foundation of that bullpen.
You know, you wonder sometimes, and I meant to ask you this earlier, but is there a different kind of sequence of pitches for him working the 9th instead of the 8th, or does he still have basically the same approach with what he's trying to do with a given hitter?
Well, the hitter will dictate what sequences he goes through, Blazer. You know, Tony's Tony. He's got the slider, he's got the changeup, and he's got the fastball to both sides of the plate. So depending on what the situation is or what type of hitters they got up there, he'll pitch to his strength. And then once he gets ahead, then he'll shoot for the weaknesses on the hitters. So it's going to be individualized. But obviously with Waddy, it's first pitch strikes, I'm coming after you, and then you just don't know when I might be able to throw that changeup or that slider on you. So there's a lot of things that he's got going in his favor, and you know, overall it's individualized.
One of the guys that we haven't covered, we've covered a lot of the solid names, Jamison Tyone.
Yeah.
Do you still feel like he is mature beyond his age?
No, yeah, no doubt. There is no question about that. And, you know, it's really a lot of fun just to have a conversation with him, because this is a guy with a plan, really good idea on what he needs to do, and he's going about his business accordingly. And I'm there for support, basically, and, you know, just making sure that he hits his keys. And the rest is up to him. He knows how to pitch. I'm telling you, this kid is really such a talent, and mature beyond his years, for sure.
He told me that, and you told me also, he's trying to get a little more movement on the changeup, maybe two-seam, rolling it over, rolling over the ball a little bit. To get
it's
a little
not so much rolling it over, Blazer, but just throwing the two-seamer. Whereas the four-seamer is going to have a little bit of fade. The two-seamer he's got real comfortable with right now. He threw some in the game the other day. We watched when he warmed up for the game against the Yankees yesterday, and the bottom falls out. So the action is there. He doesn't have to manipulate anything like turning it over or anything. Just have that fastball mentality with a changeup grip and throw it.
It seems like he's a young man that wants to find out how good he can be.
Yeah, he's hungry. There's no doubt he's hungry.
Yep. And good.
Yes.
Ray, not to put you on the spot, but you've been around this organization a long time. You talked about the mindset this year.
Yeah.
And the talent. Now, there are going to be some guys that aren't on this club when the team breaks camp in a few weeks. But anybody in particular that you're really excited about down the road?
Okay. I'll have to, and I don't mean to shortchange anybody else. But just
that's why I hate to ask you that. But I know that people ask, hey, we know what the club's going to look like this year. But what about? Tell me about some other guys that.
Well, okay. Clay Holmes is one.
Well, we saw him 2 times, and that guy is a monster, isn't he?
I'm telling you, he throws a 95 to 97 sinker that looks like a left-handed slider.
Whoa.
Nice.
Man.
This thing is wicked.
It's hard to get you to giggle, but that name makes you giggle.
I'm telling you, he's got a lot of stuff that he needs to do, to get tightened up as a pitcher. But overall, it's really exciting. And once he grows up and matures as a pitcher, this guy's going to be dynamite. So it's pretty good.
There's another name, and this is further down the road, maybe a little bit further away, Edgar Santana.
Yes. Well, he'd be pitching today. He'll be pitching today.
Well, so we'll get him. That's great.
Yeah, so he's got an inning today. This kid has an electric fastball and a slider that now you see me, now you don't. So, and when he's on, it's just tremendous. It's nice to see how easy the motion is and the fluidness to it. And then all of a sudden, boom, stuff comes out of that hand.
Yeah, wow, he's fun to watch, even throwing on the side with that cut slider.
Oh, yeah.
Are you aware who's throwing the seeds on you, by the way?
No. The
usual suspects?
Yeah, of course. I'm used to it by now.
We'll tattle because we got a camera on him. It's Nova.
I got broken in by AJ.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah,
he's been down this road. I can handle anything, baby.
Yeah, been down this road before.
Hey, Ray, we can't thank you enough. Really a pleasure, and look forward to another great season.
Thanks a lot, fellas. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for the time.
Okay.
Ray Searage, hardest working man in baseball, this guy. Unbelievable. You think of all these pitchers they have here. They've got 66 players in camp, and 31 of them pitchers, 62 players. And to say nothing of all the minor leaguers that come over from Pirate City.
And not just who they are, remember names, but the package of pitches they throw and what the tendencies are. It's full time.
Well, it'll be a treat for us then to watch Edgar Santana.
Yeah, we
have heard so much about him. Start of spring training after Elias Diaz strikes out against Fireeisen, who came on in relief of Brian Mitchell, and now Chris Bostic. Ray Searage is such a treat, and
he is.
You know, all you have to do is spend 5 minutes with him, and you know why these pitchers will do anything in the world to succeed for him. You know, it's one thing. Now, obviously, they're doing they want to succeed in the major leagues. That's their goal, to be a successful, be great, as you like to say, Steve. But they don't want to disappoint Ray Searage.
Right, and you know, it sounds too emotional and everything, but when you can get a pitching coach that has convinced you that he cares about you,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great foundation to start from, because you're out there, you're naked, and you know that guy on the bench is there with you. It means a lot. You got your back, and all pitchers need that. You know, I was watching golf yesterday. You know, these great golfers, the McIlroys and Spieths, all these guys, they believe in their caddy. I mean, and they know their caddy cares about them. You know, so caring is a good thing.
Yeah. Austin Meadows doubled in 2 runs last inning.
Do you think we'd be better golfers if Ray was our caddy?
Yes.
Okay, I'll talk to him about it.
Well, from Newcastle.
Yeah.
All right, 96 years young. Marie. Not sure if it's her birthday today. Francisco Cervelli, 31 years old today.
Well, you can't say the word Newcastle without thinking of Chuck, can you? Hand in hand.
Well, Austin Meadows, with his 3rd hit of the young spring, that double to left that brought in a pair. Now facing one of a handful of players the Yankees got in the Andrew Miller deal last summer from the Indians. J.P. Fireeisen. You look at Meadows, and he just has such a mature approach out on that field. You just see that quiet confidence. Just 21 years old.
We've known his name for a long time, at tender age.
Again, patience. Tough start last year for him when he was warming up before a ball game down here in Florida, before the season even started, and a throw skipped on the grass, took a bad hop and cracked him in the eye. Suffered an orbital fracture, had to have surgery, and he draws the walk to load them up. Longtime pitching coach Larry Rothschild will make his way out. So Meadows on base twice. Austin Meadows, late start to the season last year, and hit .311 in 45 games at AA Altoona, and finished up at AAA Indy. Figures to start at Indianapolis this season. As a former first-round pick, 9th choice overall back in 2013.
Familiar number.
Here's Barrett Barnes. With them loaded at third base, Freeze, he singled to center. Over at second, here's Bostic, and Meadows at first. And the play might be made, but that was interesting. Greg Bird, the ball was popped up. He looked at Austin Romine, the catcher. So he didn't sprint toward the ball right away. He was looking at the catcher, maybe misjudging it.
Let's get a break. That ball should have been caught. Chance to break it open. They lead 4-1. Well, he's quite a ways away from first base also, so he made it I thought with the wind blowing in like this, it might have been the catcher having the best chance, but it was a late start. He was playing well off first base, as he is now again.
And this should be playable, and is, to end the Pirates' half of the third inning. It started with a Jordy Mercer line drive home run. Mercer's second home run of the spring. That gave the Pirates a 4-1 lead.
And your Western PA Chevy dealers. And by UPMC, life-changing medicine. Let's go Bucks!
Back here, UPMC scoreboard, 4-1, fourth inning. Breezy Bradenton today. Jordy Mercer's home run over that left field wall. Ray Searage mentioned it earlier as he was rounding the bases. This guy is so underrated, the Pirates pitching coach said. Just makes all the plays, not flashy. Josh Lindblom on the mound now for the Pirates. Faces Aaron Judge.
3 innings, just gives up a run, unearned.
Lindblom in camp as a non-roster invitee, and this ball's popped up. Bostic, second baseman. Quick out in the fourth. Josh Lindblom, Lafayette, Indiana native, signed as a minor league free agent in January.
One of the 12 right-handers that are all 6'5" and about 220.
Yeah.
Some really, really big young pitchers physically.
Lindblom pitched the last couple years in Korea. Former big leaguer with the Dodgers, Phillies, Rangers, and A's. Bostic again. 2 outs. Tickets on sale now for the 2017 baseball season. Don't miss all the big games like Zambelli fireworks nights, bobbleheads, free shirt Saturdays, fan jams with Flo Rida and Chicago, plus matchups against the Yankees, Cubs, and Cardinals, and more. Get your tickets at pirates.com. It all gets underway for real at PNC Park on Friday afternoon, April the 7th, when the Atlanta Braves come in. An afternoon game, 1:05 start, then the first night game the following night, April the 8th. And then the Reds come in for 3. First homestand of the 2017 season. Bounce to third. Nice work from Josh Lindblom. Head to the bottom half of the fourth. 4-1 Pirates.
At Lecom Park as we get a look at the UPMC scoreboard. Looking good right now, 4-1 Pirates, in large part thanks to this guy right here, the guy that started the game today for the Pirates, Ivan Nova. Happy to take a couple moments here to join us. Ivan, what worked for you today?
You know, at the beginning of the game, the command wasn't there. I think a lot of emotion going on. We're trying to do too much the first inning. But, you know, after that, it started in real nice, and, you know, the command came back, and everything went well.
You could have went anywhere this offseason. Why did you come back to Pittsburgh?
The atmosphere, the guys, the team, you know, the coaching staff, the fans. It's something that I appreciate, and I feel so good here that, you know, my choice was here first. And, you know, that's why we're here.
We saw you a couple minutes ago messing around with Ray Searage. How do you describe that relationship that you have with him, and how might that benefit you with a full spring training in advance of working with him?
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's a guy that, you know a lot about baseball, guys that are trying to help you every time. We have building a really nice relationship, as you see, and, you know, that's one of the things that I enjoy here. You know, you get to play around with you know, teammates, your coaching staff, and even though it's a spring training, once, you know, season starts, you take a little more serious, but, you know, that's the thing that, you know, they allow us to have fun in the game.
So at 30 years old, you are the veteran, in quotes. Yeah, you're getting there.
Okay.
Do you feel 30?
No.
Okay. So here's my question. What kind of responsibility do you feel to kind of be the leader amongst this rotation, being the veteran guy and the oldest guy? Sorry.
I could be the oldest and the veteran, but I still one of the, you know, the top 5 or the 5 starting pitchers. The responsibility is the same as if I was 20, 21. And, you know, trying to be me, do my job, and help everybody else do, you know, the best as they can.
So you had a really good 2 months after the Pirates got you at the trading deadline. What is the key to picking it up where you left off in September last season?
Don't forget what you did last time. Don't forget what you do in September or when I get here. You know, work hard, keep working hard. Whatever happened last year, happened last year. This is a new year, with a new opportunity, new goals, and you know, just keep working hard and putting everything in the game.
Okay, here. I want you to hold this microphone. This is Greg and Steve. Just say anything you want to Greg and Steve. We're going back to them. We're done here.
Hi, Greg. Hi, Steve. We're going back to you guys. Thank you.
All right. Well done, Ivan Nova.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thanks to Robbie and Ivan. He's got a future in this business way down the road, Steve.
Yep. Let's hope it takes a while.
Yeah.
At least 3 years. Yeah.
How about another spring for you, my friend?
We got it going. I've been down here a long time and had the privilege of spending a week over at Pirate City watching them get started and watching the pitchers come in. Interesting a change. When we came to start spring training as a player, we threw batting practice, just lobbed the ball in. The pitchers, the minute they start throwing batting practice, they're trying to make pitches. Ground ball to second base should be routine. It is. So these hitters that come in, their first day of BP, these guys are throwing 93, 94, turning the ball over. It's interesting. The pitchers very much have the advantage, even during batting practice. Now, they get their regular kind of cuts from the coaches later on, but they spend the first day of taking batting practice against live pitching from Garrett Cole, Tyone, Tony Watson.
Step right up.
It's different. Yeah, there's no piece of cake first day.
Now, this is the second time that you've been a guest instructor. And there's a line drive toward the line in left foul. Jordy Mercer, who homered his last time up. And I get the impression that you yourself approached this a little bit differently.
Yeah, second year, first year I was just hanging around and watching, see how things work, what they wanted from us. But mostly they're looking for us to be kind of observers. So it's guest instructor / decoration a little bit. But it helps me more than it helps them because I get to spend a little time with them. I can ask Tyone about this changeup that he's working on a little bit, or how Garrett feels compared to last year, or what special projects somebody might have. And familiarity when I walk into the clubhouse looking for an interview or something to work with. So it does a lot for me. You have to get up and say something. I said, I got more from you than I gave you. I said, the only two things I know about pitching is that I could do it and then I couldn't do it. But it was fun, and I paid a little more attention and watching some relays and cutoff things and little things that they do that I take for granted. But you watch them and you're up close, and these guys overpower certain situations. I see even big guys on the infield. They overpower the infield.
But even this gives you an even better appreciation for what they do, just having been down there for a week.
It does, because we get spoiled, and I sit up here and I watch them. Okay, yeah, that's a routine backhand stop, but there's a lot involved. They work at it, and repetition, volumes of ground balls and fly balls. I mean, there's a lot going on.
Jordan Montgomery, a 1-2-3-4. Pirates up 4-1. So it's a 4-1 ball game. On to the fifth inning. Here from Bradenton, Florida. Spring training baseball. First of a dozen games here on Root Sports. Well, over the winter, we lost the grand lady. Sally O'Leary passed away, our great friend, longtime member of the Pirates PR department. And she continued, Steve, to really be the point person for your alumni group.
Absolutely.
Just such a tough loss.
Yeah, she
wonderful lady.
You thought about the Pirates and what people in the background do that don't get all the headlines. Well, she was one of the best. And with the alumni, I know she put out a newsletter, and she put it out with Joe Billadu, but it was recognized as maybe the best newsletter in all of Major League Baseball, and every team has one. But what a job she did with the former players. Everybody responded to the questionnaires she sent out. It's not the same. It is just simply not the same. Life goes on, but Sally O'Leary, so much part of Pittsburgh Pirate baseball.
Someone at her funeral, and I apologize for not recalling who told the story, Steve. She's just beloved by so many people for so many years in this game of baseball. People in and out of uniform as Barnes tries to make a sliding grab and not able to get to it. Jorge Mateo at the plate. But it was Brian Gorman, the longtime umpire, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Who was quite a character.
Yeah, unbelievable character, great personality.
Well, apparently Brian Gorman would visit Sally at Three River Stadium every time, as many players did. Joe Torre made it.
They made it a point to stop in her office. Yep.
And Gorman came in there. How you doing? She goes, well, okay. Says, what's the matter? She said, well, you know, she had that big annual banquet up in Sheffield, PA, where she was from. Yep. And Gorman could tell she was down. She goes, well, I just trying to get a hold of Willie Stargell. Willie, I know he's been busy, but I want him to get to this banquet, and I'm just not able to get confirmation. And he says, Sally, you don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. There's a fly ball caught by Meadows. That is out number 1. Sally and her sisters would often station themselves behind home plate at Three River Stadium. Remember those seats?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they were there every night. Huge Pirates fans. Yep. And Brian Gorman was the home plate umpire this night. And Stargell comes to the plate. And Willie steps in. And by the way, this would have been Willie Stargell's birthday. He was born on this day in 1940. Stargell steps in. Gorman calls timeout. Steps out from behind the catcher and goes over and dusts off home plate. And you could see he's saying something. And Stargell saying something back. And when the home plate umpire goes back behind home plate, he turns toward those box seats, takes off his umpire's mask, gives a big thumbs up to Sally. Willie will be there.
Yeah, or he won't get any calls.
Exactly right.
Oh, that's great. That is great. Well, I remember going to one of those banquets too up in Sheffield in the dead of winter when both Torrey and Tom Gorman flew into Pittsburgh. We drove from Pittsburgh up in one of the greatest rides with those two characters, Torrey and Gorman, to go up there. Went to Sally's house, and it was like we were members of the family. We didn't go to the banquet hall. We went to her house hours early, and it was just like a family reunion. I mean, and I remember everybody that she knew would stop by and knew that office where she was in. And just dedicated her life to the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yep. She will be missed.
Dedicated her life to the Pittsburgh Pirates and Ireland.
Oh, yes, that's right. Oh, yeah.
Not lose track.
Yep. Awfully proud of her Irish roots.
She worked, one of the people she loved, everybody, but she and Bill Guilfoyle, such a great combination, such great friends.
Bill Guilfoyle, the late PR VP of the Pirates. Now she touched so many people.
It was great because during the alumni newsletter, she'd send out she'd make up a question, like if you were on a desert island, former players, and it was in the newsletter. You have to answer this question: on a desert island, what would you want most? What thing would you want most? And all kind of questions like that. Who influenced you the most, or some of those things? And she'd always get great responses and funny ones and legit ones. I answered that one, a Learjet. Is how I answered the desert island. But everybody responded. They didn't. Guys that wouldn't normally responded to all that stuff because it was Sally.
And there's a man right there in the middle there, Bill Verdon, who was
one of her favorites. One of her
Sangy. Yeah, she loves Sangy, and Butch Weiniger is the hitting coach of Indianapolis. He is to Verdon's right. And you saw Manny Sanguian seated on the other side of Bill Verdon. Nice work, Josh Lindblom.
Yeah.
6 up, 6 down. Miss you, Sal. Austin Meadows, former first-round pick, the double that scores a couple. That was in the second inning. Pirates' top prospect, and then Jordy Mercer.
Come on, give us a Mercer me.
Not yet. not till it counts.
Okay, good deal.
As he lines that home run, his second home run of the spring. And our UPMC scoreboard, 4-1 Buccos. Going to the bottom of the fifth, and Josh Bell will turn around and bat right-handed against the lefty Jordan Montgomery.
By the way, got a new place out on the island this year. Had any company?
You're talking about my place?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We've had some visitors. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Nice to have the folks drop in, spend a little time.
Friends. Good stuff.
Always good to know that Greg's got a couple extra rooms in the house.
Yeah. Blasses are also
welcome you. It's been very, very busy. Yep. Getting ready for the next wave. Changing all the linen around, getting more food in. Yep.
The trucks coming in.
Oh yeah, yep.
Weekly food.
Yep. The restoration people, put your house back together.
Josh Bell for 2. Great to see him playing today after the surgery a few weeks ago. Plenty of time. There's a Dave Jouse, no longer the bench coach, talking to the current Pirates bench coach, Tom Prince, longtime Pirates catcher. Tom Prince is managing, as we said, Clint Hurdle, asked by the family of longtime general manager of the AAA Norfolk and Tidewater Tides, Dave Rosenfield, his funeral services. Well, the Pens' next game is coming up on Wednesday, traveling to Winnipeg, take on the Jets. Our coverage starts at 7:30 with Pens pregame, presented by Levin Furniture and Mattress on Root Sports. The Pens, Jets, Wednesday, 7:30.
If I'm not mistaken, coming off the win yesterday. Wish them well.
They are winning a lot. Great to see. Now Eric Weiss bats for David Freese. Joey Trdoslavich will pinch run for Josh Bell. Trdoslavich in camp as a non-roster invitee. Former Atlanta Brave. Meantime, Pirates leading this ball game 4-1. Eric Weiss at the plate. Hits this hard toward the left center gap.
Nice slicer.
And Trdoslavich can be waved home by Joey Cora. And that throw is going to sail. That'll give Eric Weiss an RBI double.
Couldn't have used course management any better. Hit it towards center field with a lot of slice right into the left center field gap and off to the races.
Another look here, Eric Weiss, Pirates 11th round pick 4 years ago. Out of the University of Texas.
Nothing cheap about that one.
Weiss drove in 65 runs for the Altoona Curve last year. Eastern League ball club, the Pirates organization. Elias Diaz 1 for 2, with the infield shortened up.
Back-to-back games against the Yankees. Yankees won yesterday 3-2. Pirates trying to get even and got a leg up on it. Just 2 hits given up by Pirate pitching through the first 5.
That was interesting to hear pitching coach Ray Searage admit that there is something different in the air and in that clubhouse about this 2017 Pirates team. I think collectively they're playing with chip on their shoulders, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Feel like, you know, hey, last year was an aberration, the 78 wins. We're much more like the team that went to the playoffs 3 straight years. And that always starts with pitching, and they like the pitching staff.
And you could go down the road, too, with the candidates. You never go through the season with 5 starters. So you can go through the list of the possible guys that you might see during the course of the year.
And Elias Diaz is going to get himself a double.
How about that nicely placed bounce?
That's his second hit and a 6-1 lead for the Pirates. As Diaz doubles home Eric Weiss. Steve, you're right. You need, as Neil Huntington likes to say, you really need 9 or 10, not 5 or 6. You need 9 or 10 with injuries and so on that are sure to happen every year. Take a look at Elias Diaz.
Yeah, and you wonder about the progress, and Ray was talking about the progress of Tyler Glasnow and maybe polishing off some of the edges that he needs to work on. But there's certainly, if you stand behind him and watch him throw, it is electric. It is electric stuff. Just a matter of when.
There's Bostic. Takes the strike. Yeah, so again, if you're kind of penciling in what that roster will look like when the team breaks camp here, you can certainly lock in Garrett Cole for opening day in Boston, April the 3rd. And the Pirates have already announced Jameson Taillon for game number 2 on April the 5th. And we'll assume that Chad Kuhl is going to pitch against the Red Sox game number 3, though they haven't announced it. And Ivan Nova pitches game 1 of the home schedule, April the 7th.
Both Martes will be back after the Classic.
Starling Marte will be in center field. Andrew McCutchen moves to right, and Gregory Polanco, who played several games out in left field last year.
You know, how long ago was it we were touting perhaps the trio of those 3 guys being one of the best, if not the best trio of Major League outfielders? Still possible.
They're still out there.
Yep, we can go in that direction.
Chris Bostic, who is on the 40-man roster, and figures to give the Pirates some depth as a utility player, if not at the start of the season, at some point during the year.
Yeah, the extra players, you know, as we go down the road in the month of March, we'll start looking at what the possible backups are in the infield, the outfield. That's still to be determined.
That is the first out, and Diaz holds at second base. Now catch the Buccos this season with the Sheets 10-game made-to-order plan. Pick 10 games of your choice, excluding opening day, for as low as $190. Plus, you'll get special deals from Sheets and $25 in loaded value. Go to pirates.com/10-pack and get yours right now, the 10-game MTO plan from Sheets.
Kent Tekulve fan. Teak is in uniform for
Good to
spring
see
training.
Teak back.
Yep.
Birthday yesterday, wasn't it, for Teak? Yeah. Austin Meadows now. He has doubled in a pair and walked.
And Teak having a nice chat with Rob King. Good to hear Rob getting ready for baseball back in the Berg. You know, another thing you see down here, just the first week of spring training, all kind of the technical people from Pittsburgh putting together a lot of the things that we see up on the message board in Pittsburgh, all the entertaining things. They do a lot of work. They get down here the first week and they put a lot of stuff together that they don't have to rush and do it up in Pittsburgh. All kind of filming, some of the games that go on up on the board. A lot of entertainment packaged.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say the love advice from Cervelli will be back.
Yeah.
They've already taped some of those snippets, and April the 8th is the Cervelli singing bobblehead. That's Amori. April the 8th against the Braves. at PNC Park.
I wonder if he'll still have the velvet smoking jacket on when he gives out the advice.
Yeah. Weekly hit. And that will be out number 2. Yeah, that's a must. The Cervelli bobblehead giveaway, and I've got to believe that the Bob Walk bobble chair giveaway is also a
the
big,
wobbly chair.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. The 3-legged chair.
Yeah.
Get yours today. Get your tickets for that.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Take it easy. Here's Barrett Barnes. Round out that brought in a run in the second for Barnes.
You know, between the 5 of us broadcasters, something must be amiss, or somebody's misbehaving or something, because the boss is in town. Mark Garter, director of broadcasting. So we got to clean up our act.
Everybody's on their best behavior.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course,
we don't know.
You had to pull out all the stops today, Mr. HBO.
That's right.
You're going to be on HBO. What, Inside Sports or Real Sports with Brian Gumbel?
Yeah, they're doing a piece on Rick Ankiel. He wrote a book.
Yes. I know you. He came over to Pittsburgh last year and talked with you for a couple hours.
We had a great chat. Yeah, it was very good. It was pretty intense, because I don't think anybody can appreciate what we both went through other than each other. And it was down and dirty, and it was good. It was like almost a cleansing, and very personal.
Probably helped him a lot.
Well,
I would think
both of us.
Just be able to.
Both of us. And so he's coming out with a book, and I got a little chapter in it. So we talked about it during an interview today.
Yeah, Real Sports with Brian Gumbel on HBO. Watching that down the road with Steve Blass, Mr. Big Time, Mr. Big.
That's right. Large, huge.
We are back at this beautiful ballpark here in Bradenton, Florida. The Pirates leading at 6-1, heading to inning number 6. Look at the tiki bar out in right center. They put in that boardwalk a few years ago, and as Robbie mentioned earlier, the new scoreboard. And speaking of Robbie, he's with Josh Bell right now.
Josh, first game of spring training, overcoming the knee surgery. How do you feel right now?
Feels great. Felt good to have a couple at bats underneath my belt. Get out there in the field with the guys. You know, it's fun baseball when you're smacking the ball around and scoring runs. So it was a good opportunity for me to get out there. You know,
you mentioned this earlier in our pregame show. There's never really a good time to have a surgery, but in terms of if you needed it, how much was that beneficial to have it early, and now you get yourself in position for opening day?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, we have the rest of the month to prepare ourselves, and then to get the things we need to get done in practice and whatnot. So I'm just trying to get as many repetitions as I can to get on the field and perform.
How much work can you do defensively to prepare yourself for first base? Obviously something that started, over a season ago.
A lot. There's a lot of footwork around the bag. There's footwork with the throws. I mean, I've done countless repetitions with Joey Cora and Kevin Young, and it's something I'm going to continue to work on this season.
How much have you learned about yourself in the past season? From making your big league debut, you hit the big grand slam, and then everything has its ups and downs. Every job does. But how much have you benefited, and how much have you learned?
Yeah, it was great. It was also great for me to go back home for the off season, really reflect on the player that I want to be this year and what the team needs to have success towards the end of the year. So. I really was able to dial it in. I know I had a slight setback, but I'm happy to be back on the field and hopefully be a part of a playoff team this year.
We're going to discuss the pitchers for a little bit. Tyler Glasnow is one of your best friends since you guys came in together. How much has this group grown together, given that you spent so many years playing together coming up through the minor league system?
That's awesome. It's awesome to see these guys succeed at the highest levels. You got guys like Tyon, Cool, you see Brault and Glasnow, all guys that I've played with for years now, and they've succeeded at every level. So it's awesome to see them, get big league names out, the same that they were doing with minor leaguers. So, I wish them all the best of success, and we'll see what happens at the end of the year.
All right, besides having your knee operated on, what did you do this offseason? Anything interesting worth telling the people?
Well, I checked out the Nike factory in Portland, Oregon. It was really awesome. I have a cousin that works there, and I was able to, see the Jordan facility and just walk around campus. It was really much needed for me to unwind after baseball, and I spent about 2 weeks on vacation out there, so it was a blessing to be able to do that.
Good stuff, Josh. Welcome back to Playing Games. Thanks for joining us.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
All right, Greg?
And thanks, Robbie, and to Josh Bell. Indeed, great to see him back on the field, and it should be fun to watch him play. What can he do? A full year in the big leagues as his career will take off. Greg Bird, meanwhile, faces Felipe Rivero,
who is touching it at 97 and 98 miles an hour. So his arm is loose and quick.
Just his third spring outing. Josh Lindblom will follow Josh Bell. Lindblom did great work, 6 up and 6 down, as tries to get the Pirates' attention. And Rivero strikes out Bird looking.
Captain Hook after the heat. See the hook. So you throw 97, 98, and then you show him this little program, picking up the inside corner, perhaps, maybe a little bit of a gift call, but he gets the K. 2 up, 2 down, 2 strikeouts for Felipe. Must be the hair.
Over from the Nationals in the Mark Melancon trade last summer. New defense, new battery with Jackson Williams doing the catching. Eric Weiss stays in at third with Alan Hansen at short. Gifton Gope at second. Joey Turdoslavich over at first. And in the center field position is Yuri Perez. And the other two are over from minor league camp. Casey Houston in left, Michael Suki in right.
Very quickly out in front, 0-2. When Rivera gets out in front 0-2, he is just a handful, because you got to respect the fastball in the upper 90s, and if he throws you the hook, sometimes you're just hung out to dry. You got to be so ready and maybe start a little bit early to catch up with a fastball. And if you don't get it, you're in trouble.
See ya.
He got it.
Strikes out each of the 3 faces, including Chase Headley. Pirates leading 6-1.
Would you be into
#1 in the region for all the things that matter most. And by Barrel Automotive. Check out barreltires.com and never overpay for tires again. Let's go Bucks!
6-1 Pirates. UPMC scoreboard going to the bottom of the 6th inning. Nice crowd on hand for Pirates and the Yankees.
Yankee fans kind of quiet to this point. Bucco fans enjoying the afternoon. And our old friend Jonathan Neese in a New York Yankee. So Mets, Pirates, Yankees.
Minor league free agent deal, hopes to win a job. Did not work out well. Traded over in the Neil Walker deal. And then the Pirates traded him back to New York to get Antonio Bastardo again.
People bouncing around. Seems to be left-handers bounce around a lot with different chances, different opportunities.
Casey Houston took over in left field, and he will lead off for the Pirates. Pirates brought, I believe, a dozen players over from their minor league camp at Pirate City, just a few miles away.
Sometimes there's different players with the same number, which adds to confusion on occasion.
Casey Houston, last year, the South Atlantic League, played in West Virginia. West Virginia Power. So John Neese was a pretty solid starter for the Mets for a time. And Houston will lift this one to center. Bring up Michael Suki. So Russ Snyder, Wade and Hicks in the outfield. Andujar, Mateo, Tejada, Castillo on the infield, and Austin Romine still behind the plate. It's another former Met there, Ruben Tejada at second base. Suki, hard shot to third.
There's no handle on that baseball.
Andujar not able to come up with it.
He had a second chance also, but couldn't find the grip.
It'll be an E5.
Back to the Tiki Bar. Not a bad place to go back to. Time and time again.
Here's Alan Hansen.
Another person of interest who is out of options. To become somewhat of a factor and cut down business.
Yeah, when you're out of options, as is the case with Hansen, the Pirates would have to expose him to waivers if they were going to try and send him down to the minor leagues. So Neese takes care of that. Pirates Spring Training Baseball always live with the MLB.com At Bat mobile app. Stay connected all spring with radio broadcasts, video highlights, stats, news, and more. Download MLB.com At Bat today. It's your #1 app for live baseball. Joey Turdoslavich gets his first at bat. Pitch ran for Josh Bell.
You know, we had a good crowd shot there. It's just, there's something about spring training baseball that personalizes the game. You're closer, so you kind of see that these are not baseball machines. They're having a good time. They see that there are people playing, and they have time to get away from the actual action for a moment, as these guys are doing. Good time at the ballpark. It's a wonderful time. It's a different feel. maybe without the intensity, just more fun. Unless you get a BB hit back at you, you better be alert when you're this close. You want to be this close, but be alert.
Terdoslavich, Sarasota, Florida native, signed as a minor league free agent in the middle of January. Spent last year in the Orioles minor leagues.
Signed with the right organization in the last couple of years, huh? To be right in his own backyard. Yeah. Baltimore just 10 miles down the road. Heading down Highway 41. Rambling man.
Toward Hicks. And we are going to talk to a longtime member of the Yankees organization and a one-time Pirate, Steve's good buddy Gene Michael Stick, going to join us. 6-1 Bucks. It is a gorgeous afternoon. The Pirates are leading at 6-1. Here from Bradenton, Florida. Young and old alike taking in some spring training baseball. The Pirates and the Yankees. And we are pleased, as was said, to be joined by Steve's good buddy, a former teammate, former Bucko, Gene Michael, longtime member of the Yankees organization.
But before that, a Pirate, way back in the day when we were coming up through the minor leagues together, where we didn't have any money, we were just playing ball because it felt good.
The only money we had was we won in poker.
This is one of the real good poker players, trust me, because they came for my furniture after one hand. You beat me out of it.
You, me, and Tony Barterone, we won the most money.
We did, and we played poker every night. You were not allowed to go eat or do anything, drink after we played in the minor leagues. You had to come to the room and play poker all night until the bus came the next day.
You had to have a doctor's excuse not to be there, remember?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Juan Nicasio takes over for the Pirates.
So much fun. I ran into Gene down in the minor leagues. We actually kind of started out in Kinston in 1962.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, the Kinston Eagles.
You were good and I was bad. I had the second year I had a decent year, but you were a good pitcher right away.
Well, no, I wasn't, because I was sent down from Asheville. I couldn't get anybody out at A-ball, so they sent me to B-ball. Kinston under Harding Peterson was our manager.
Yes, that's right. The funniest story, though, was with Doc Ellis. When he came down, he said, I'm going to win 20. He won 2.
One of the great things about playing for Harding Peterson, who had a great head of black hair, and he would fall asleep on the bus every trip. He would, and Stick had some
shaving
cream, and he looked like a unicorn coming into the little motels we stayed at. He had a big tall thing of shaving cream. Every trip he'd go to sleep and Stick would come in and do. I mean, we had too much fun. Too much.
You remember the next year I was in the same league. You know, you were gone. You were in AAA, but the next year they invited me to drive the bus so they could sleep.
Oh my goodness!
No.
I'm sorry I missed that. I'm sorry. Because our driver was Retho Suggs, and when Joe Gibbon came down for rehab, he always wanted to know where Retho was going to be so he could get on the bus at the right time. Joe Gibbon came down.
I forgot about that. I forgot about a lot of these things, including my batting average.
But tell us, because after your time with the Pirates and playing, you have made a career with the New York Yankees. When was the first year you got involved not in a Pirate organization?
Well, you played with the Yankees for a time, didn't you?
7 years.
Yeah.
7?
With them, yeah. And then I was hitting like a pitcher, so George thought I should be a pitching coach. I'm just kidding. But I came back to the Yankees, and George didn't know for sure what he wanted to do. Whether he wanted me to. He was talking about being an announcer like you.
Was he?
And then he said he didn't know if he wanted me to be a coach or a minor league instructor and coach.
You're much too honest to be an announcer.
Yeah.
Well, but Gene went on, of course, to manage,
everything
GM, everything imaginable. And really, I think it's interesting, Gene, that if you look at what the Yankees are doing right now, it's almost like this is kind of what Gene Michael did years ago that built that championship team with the core young group. You either drafted or signed guys like Mariano Rivera, Jorge Posada, Derek Jeter. And it just seems to be the way the organization's going now.
Yes, I see the similarities. We got lucky with a lot of things, though, with the players we had. We had some real durable players that never got hurt, played a long time. Bernie Williams, Jeter, Posada, and people like that that just played forever and never were injured. Mariano Rivera. Then we got, people like Martinez that came in and played first base, and O'Neill, and they never got hurt. So we were very lucky with that. And if these young players here, the nucleus we have now, if they could stay healthy, I think we have something.
Some highlights of the great Derek Jeter, the all-time great players in the history of Major League Baseball. We're talking to Gene Michael, who helped build that team, and that ball is crushed. Wind gusting. We'll keep that in the yard. Off the bat of Aaron Hicks.
I know that sound. That ball should have been out of here, but there's a gale blowing across the field from right field.
Ball it towards left field.
You know the sound. But tell us about the relationship with Steinbrenner, though. He must have seen something with you as a player that he wanted to, whatever you could bring, he wanted it.
Well, he was difficult to work for.
Oh, we've heard stories, yeah.
But he wasn't so stubborn that if you went to him twice, you'd have his attention, and usually you'd get what you needed or what your idea across anyway. If you went 3 times, he never failed to come up with the goods on something as long as he believed in you. And sometimes he didn't believe in me. Sometimes he was angry with me.
But I know you, with your relationship with him, you helped a lot of guys get jobs too. And he went along with your recommendations.
Yeah, he did. He was good about that, and he was loyal to his former players. He always wanted to bring them back. He was loyal to a lot of people, including friends he had before baseball. He thought some people were interchangeable. He would make friends of his, scouts and different things like that. And he was friends, he'd put them on payrolls and make sure that they had jobs. And Lou Saban, for example. Lou Saban was out of a job. He was always a football coach different years. He didn't have a job one year, so George made him president of the Yankees.
That's great.
Tag, you're president.
Former NFL head coach became president of the Yankees.
And I know our former teammate in the minor leagues coming up through, and former major leaguer Ron Brand got a job also that I believe you helped with.
Which one?
Ronnie Brand?
Yes, Ronnie Brand. I picked him as a scout because I thought he was a baseball guy. Remember when we used to be in the minors? He was one of the guys that was always talking about the games, always the at-bats.
Yeah.
Usually his at-bats.
Yes, yeah. But that was the featured subject sometimes.
He's one of those guys that made himself a good, nice little player.
Yeah.
He didn't have a lot of ability.
Right, he carved out a nice career.
He did, and then he became a good scout for us. He was responsible for us getting Scott Brocious. He helped Brian Cashman on that, and Brian gave him credit for that.
Talking with the great Gene Michael. As Nicasio tries to work his way out. With this little jam, he gets Romine to bounce back to the mound, keeping the runners at second and third.
Now, want to ask you, Ivan Nova, coming over last year, did a fabulous job for us, really, coming over. Now, you saw him today. Give us your take on him as a pitcher.
He always had good stuff. He had 4 pitches. And I think his curveball used to be the best pitch. He got away from it a little bit. When he gets his curveball over, when he lets the full curveball go, and it's over the plate, it's not very hittable. It's a good one. And if he gets it down, they don't hit that much. And he's always had big ability. Didn't always put the game together. Couldn't always find it. Couldn't always locate like he maybe should have. But he had always had ability.
Well, he came over and walked 3 guys in some 65 strikeouts. It's just phenomenal control, so we're optimistic. How has scouting changed, Gene, since you've been involved as a supervisor of scout or boss of scouts, and you do some scouting now? How has it changed?
It has changed, and I knew you would notice it. You notice the players are so much stronger. They have weight programs. Yeah. They have weight programs. We never had that.
No.
We were told not to lift weights.
Exactly.
Only the Ted Williams curls, if you remember.
Yep.
Well, players are so much stronger today. Sometimes you have to give these guys that have big arms a little more time. Like, for example, going way back, Nolan Ryan. If he gave up on Nolan when he was wild and young, he would never have that career. But that's one of the things that I think you have to do even today, and it's more difficult because you don't have as many minor league teams.
Yeah. It has changed, and so much information, so much technology.
Oh, geez.
What about the gut?
There's too much.
Yeah. What about the gut feel? Is it still there?
Yeah.
Important?
Yeah, that's why you need good scouts, I think. You have to look at people that think they can see, I'm going to say deep concentration. I think that's important. And you have to have makeup. And you get that, you find out makeup as a scout. You can look and see it always on the field. You can see some concentration, but you have to go and listen to other people talk that know the player and try to get all the ins and outs about the player, how they adapt, are they hard workers?
Get their makeup,
Yeah, do they do their weight work? That's important today. We didn't think it was when we played. We didn't know
we had no discipline. Let's be honest. You play and then
exactly.
Yeah, and then you go home, and then you come back and play again.
Exactly.
Yeah, but so both approaches can work.
Yes.
Because they worked for a lot of really good players before all the technology came in.
But
it's a different world now.
There's probably a little bit too much tech in it. Too many things to think about, especially in advanced scouting. You don't have time. Advanced scouting, when you finish a series, that's when you can start working on the other team. Yeah. You wouldn't have time to read all the books that they can put out and spit out all the information that they can get out. It's good to have it, but you still have to play the game, and you can't let that get interfere with playing the game.
Do you work with a computer?
I have an iPad.
Okay. Same thing.
And the Yankees are very good with it. They don't make me do as many reports as the other full-time scouts.
Well, you've earned your stripes, I think. Over
my beatings from George.
Gene coming up with the Pirates way back in the day. I remember it was kind of a combination. You and Gene Alley kind of came up through, and you were both second basemen, weren't you originally? But you knew you weren't going to play second base with the Pirates.
Gene started off at third.
Okay.
And then short.
Then short.
Yeah. Grote was the All-Star before, remember?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And Alley had to sort of wait, but Gene was a good young player right away. And he was an All-Star shortstop when I came up. I came up at age 28.
Late bloomer.
Yeah.
Nicasio tries to work his way out of it, and he does. We'll be back with more Gene Michael Stick. We continue from Bradenton. To the bottom half of the 7th.
We're with Gene Michael, and the stories that keep coming back. We got to go back to the minor leagues, the poker game we talked about, because we would assemble every night and all night, and we had one pitcher who will go unnamed that sat in one night, and 3 hours into the game, we couldn't find the ace of spades.
Oh yeah, the ace.
The ace of spades. So we all got up, and everybody lifted their foot up. We're looking around, and one guy, this pitcher that we won't name, never moved his left foot. It was like a point guard in basketball. He didn't want to get caught for traveling, and he never would move that left foot because that's where the ace of spades was. And we played 3 hours, and he took a lot of our money too during those 3 hours.
He was going to keep that foot locked on that ace of spades.
That ace of spades, well, it's not going to go anywhere.
He was an old basketball player doing that pivot.
Yeah, oh yeah. He had that was he was never going to get called for traveling.
The other leg moved all over the place, but that
all over the place. We'd get food sent up, and you just couldn't go. You couldn't go anywhere. It was just the time of our lives because we were doing exactly what we dreamed about doing since we were 8 years old.
I have to say something about you. Steve he won't say it, one of the best competitors in everything. I'm telling you, that's what I remember most about you as a pitcher. You're the best competitor you'd ever want to see. That's why you got up there and did what you did. Well, because you did compete. You competed in poker too?
Yeah, well, I mean, just the way you're put together, you want to find out how good you are.
He's the same way, Gene. He hasn't changed. Same way, competitor.
It was fun coming up through that organization. We were loaded with talent. That Pirate group and those days and those years, it was great. Rex Bowen and some of the scouts that were involved over the years with the Pirates put together quite an organization.
And they always they believed in getting speed, arm strength.
Yep, because there's certain things you couldn't teach: speed and fastball abilities. Yeah, and the strong arms.
We had a bunch of people that could really throw hard coming up, and they always find speed, arms. And they didn't look for players that really hit for power that much. They looked for players that were coordinated, that were good athletes, and they thought they would learn to hit for power.
Yep.
I fooled them.
You did all right. You did all right. What's your take? You've been around a while on some of these rules changes.
I don't like what they did at second, but it's here. They're doing it to protect their assets. Mm-hmm. That's what they're doing. They don't want players getting hurt because they're valuable.
But didn't you learn as a middle infielder, it was your responsibility to get out of the way?
Absolutely.
And Maz feels that way too. Yeah. And that's part of the game. And I don't know if it required a rules change. And Buster Posey got hurt behind the plate, so they're protecting their asset.
I know.
Protecting their asset. And it's, the enduring thing about holding a baseball up as a catcher when you get your butt kicked over and hold it down up to the umpire. That's one of the great images in baseball.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Things changed.
I remember several catchers did that. They'd come up with the ball and hold it up.
Hold it up for the umpire to see.
It was a victory.
Yeah. But it's a different world. I mean, ours wasn't the best, and this isn't the worst, and it's just the world evolves. This is where we are, us old dinosaurs.
Yes. The rule came about with at second base with Utley pretty much hitting the infielder and breaking his leg.
Yep.
And I know that he was entirely within the rules at that time because there was nothing illegal what he did, and they called that right. They changed the rule after that. I'm not so sure that it's still understood how you have to slide. You have to make sure you slide before you get there. You can't slide and roll into the player naturally.
It's a gray area, and at home plate it's still kind of a gray area.
But I'll never forget Randolph at second.
Will he?
When he got taken into the outfield.
Oh yeah, who was that? That
was.
Who was the runner?
Well,
it wasn't Hal McRae, was it? No.
McRae.
Was it?
It was McRae for Kansas City.
Hal McRae.
He cleaned him.
Talk about an image.
He cleaned him all the way almost into the
almost
grass.
to left field.
Like 15 feet past the base, probably.
Well, I remember when Eddie Ott, the catcher, dribbled Felix Millan.
Oh, yeah.
One of those infielders.
Body slammed him.
Slammed him. Kind of dribbled him up back at second base by the time he got through with him. So there have been incidents and allegations along the way.
Gene Michael, I guess Gene has done everything in terms of the Yankees played, coached, managed, general manager. Here we are, Gene, early in spring training. Age-old question about trying to evaluate as you scout. Is it difficult to do in this month of March?
It's terribly tough. I'll never forget what Ralph Houck said one time. He said, it's easy to judge arm strength, who can run fast, but tell me who can judge hitting, who can hit, and tell me who can pitch. Those two big things are the biggest
Most
things
important
in the game.
thing.
And all you can really tell is who can run, who can throw. But there's so many unanswered questions in the spring.
Yeah, and September call-ups, that skews up evaluations, doesn't it?
It's nice. It gives you an idea. It gets the player over that initial scare, and it lets the player be a more relaxed player the next year. So in that way, it's good, but it'll fool you. It'll fool you both ways. When a player looks bad, for example, our Judge, he struck out too many times last year, but this spring he's looked pretty good. He's had some real good at-bats. He had one the other day, ran at full count and walked, and he saw all the pitches from the pitcher, and he fouled off 3 or 4 pitches with good swings.
It's so hard to make that judgment of what a player does in March and then trying to translate that into the regular season.
Yes.
As tough as it is to see an 18-year-old kid and think of what he might be when he's 24.
Yeah.
Project what's in the belly, the fire, the passion.
You can't tell. You really, it's difficult. I think it takes good scouts' eyes and imagination. I really do. We have a bunch of good scouts with the Yankees. Tim Naring's a newer guy that's been with us now about 6 years, I think, 5 or 6 years. He's really good. He was a former player that was a good player, and he has that idea of a scout's outlook coming back and do it. And he's up to speed with all the analytical too. That's important.
Yeah, you got to. Yeah.
That's the world.
But Gene, when you see a guy, you talk about how you built that club, Derek Jeter, one of the greatest of all time, is there just something about him early on that you see that you can't project that kind of greatness?
That's good you mentioned him. I'll tell you why. He made 56 errors his first year. And that's why 56 errors his first year at Greensboro Class A. I loved him because that's what I made my first year. 56 on
he became a Gene Michael favorite.
You knew he was going to stay around a while, like you.
Wow.
Yes.
What year did you sign?
58 I signed up. My first year was 59.
Okay, so so you stayed around a while.
I was about 3 years ahead of you, and you got
60.
you got to the big leagues about 3 years ahead of me.
Well, but we spent a lot of time together in the middle. Yeah. And by the way, I bring that up because he said I won't say something, but he won't say something about loyalty and what it means to you with people you've run across and played with, against, and met along the trail of baseball. This guy doesn't forget.
Yeah.
I gave him a ride up after a ball game in Columbus when his wife was having a baby, and there was a car issue, and we took a ride up to Ohio, northern Ohio, and just one of those things you automatically do for a teammate, and he's never forgotten that. And
he was great.
Yeah.
That was my third son, Matthew, was born then, and he brought me up there. I had automobile troubles at the time.
Oh, whoops. Trying to grab that ball and get to the bag. Andujar drops the ball, so everybody's safe. Another run scores off the bat of Eri Perez. Eric Weiss scoring.
Gene, if you could maybe give me three names of some baseball players that have impressed you the most. If you were making a list of maybe your favorite ball players that you've seen since you started playing baseball. Jeter, would he be on that list?
Who?
Jeter, Derek Jeter.
Oh yeah, Derek is one of the great players of all time. He's one of the great players of all time. I played with Mickey Mantle one year. So he's one of them that I knew, that I saw. I saw him when he was finished.
Was that magic though, just to see him?
Yeah.
Was it magic? Okay.
Oh yeah, right. Mickey was really a great teammate. You know, we had great teammates along the way. A lot of players that we had. Nobody was ever better than him. As being a teammate and concerned about all the players. If he had someone that was a player that had a sick child or something, he'd ask about the child the next day or two. And he was that way. He was just unselfish.
You're talking about, Gene, the numbers, the analytics can never tell you what's inside the guy.
That's true.
So Jeter's a great example. Not only is he a great player, but to handle all that went around him. There's never any controversy. His whole Yankee career, such a pro.
Yeah.
That's something that's hard to project, too.
Yes. Mariano Rivera was that way, too. Those players helped make us. And we were lucky. We had a lot of players that were really good that way and didn't become they could answer
classy.
the moment. They could play in New York.
In New York.
Bernie Williams was tentative for a while. He found himself, and I think that helped me with George and staying with Bernie, because I was worried about George criticizing him, because once he did, and Bernie took a step backward on this thing, and then he got okay, and once he found himself, he was a big player for us.
You mentioned Mickey Mantle. I've got a Mickey Mantle story involving Johnny Blanchard. Remember, third string catcher for the Yankees?
Sure.
He never played because of Yogi and Elston Barrett, Elston Howard, but he always got a World Series ring, got a World Series check. So now the story was that he lockered next to Mickey, and Mickey came in one day and Blanchard was in tears. And Mickey said, "John, what's wrong?" He said, "Mick, I just got traded to Kansas City." Mick said, "That's great, you'll get a chance to play." He said, "Mick, that's why I'm crying. You know I can't play."
It's funny. That is funny.
I don't know if it's true or not, but it's a great story.
That's a great story.
He never got exposed. He never had to play and got these checks and rings all the time.
That is good. Johnny Blanchard could hit, though.
Yeah. Well, Johnny, of course, he played with the Yankees in '60 when Pittsburgh won that year.
Yep.
Yeah. All the stories. It's still a game about stories.
We can't fail to mention Tony Bartiromo, our trainer.
Our trainer, yep. Tony was a first baseman for the Pirates for a very short period of time. In the first year, he was a trainer. Larry Shepard was our manager up in Daytona Beach in Jacksonville. And Larry, something happened on the field. Larry said, "Tony, get out there." And Tony said, "I went looking for my glove," because he had just been a player the year before, and now he's a professional trainer.
Tony, he was a leader on our club coming through the minors. You remember he had Kinston? Well, you weren't there. He was there the second year.
The second year, yeah.
And then he became the trainer, and he was one of our leaders, being the trainer in Columbus, Ohio.
Absolutely. I used to go into the trainer's room, and I said, "Tony, I need my arm." He said, "Go see your family doctor." He said, "Get out of here." He wouldn't let me in the trainer's room.
He loves you to death.
I
He thought you were great before you were.
Yeah, right.
He was really
very perceptive guy. Right?
Tony had good
He's a
good
good scout,
insight
yeah.
about players who could play.
Well, he knows baseball.
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
Tony's 85 now.
I can't believe
85. Yep.
Bradenton resident.
He lives here. He bought a beautiful home out on the way out to the beach.
On the bay.
Yep, beautiful.
I remember when he bought it. Down there. Yep.
Oh, we got action here.
Oh, one of the Pirates minor leaguers, Casey Houston, goes the other way, and this is going to clear the bases. And now Houston takes advantage of the throw to the plate, and he reaches safely there. What a big moment for Casey Houston to clear the bases.
The Pirates break it open here.
11-1.
And we beat Detroit the other day 11-1. They had all their regulars in there.
Well, we got beat by Toronto the other day 12-0, so we went up and down that street.
It's a funny game.
It is. It is.
And again, it goes back to what Gene Michael was saying and that age-old question about trying to evaluate talent. And in this case, and a lot of times, Gene and Steve, early on in spring training, you're talking about players that are probably not going to play above Double-A. Casey Houston, for example, might get to Double-A this year, but try to evaluate these guys this early in camp is so difficult.
It is. Yeah, you try to guess intelligently, but it's very difficult because you really can't tell.
But do you remember when you were a kid and you got invited to spring training and you're begging to get in a ball game, just to get out there and play in a major league setting, those dreams. And you'd come to Florida and please let me get a chance. Let me get a chance just to pitch one inning or one at bat, because that's what you're living for as a minor league player. We sometimes we take so much for granted and we get so jaded a little bit and you forget about the dreams.
Exactly. I remember a time, my first camp, I just signed in '58. I go to the big league camp in '59.
Fort Myers. Yep.
I didn't even know how to put my sanitary socks on, right? So I get in the inter-squad game. I'm facing Vernon Law, the first at bat against in any game. I hit a line drive base hit to center field. And I'll never forget.
How about that?
I thought I could play.
Yep.
How about that? You never forget that moment.
Never. Inter-squad game.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And the days of Fort Myers, Steve often talks about that. That's where you guys were, down in Fort Myers.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Those days, you'd really traveled all over the place.
And we'd be on the bus, and there was no I-75. We came up Route 41. We knew every Morrison's cafeteria because that's where we'd stop and have lunch.
I forgot about that. That's right.
Yeah, there was nothing going on down in Fort Myers, but you remember going down there, and there was 2 hotels that we stayed at. The Bradford Hotel was for the big leaguers, and the Franklin Arms.
Oh, Franklin Arms.
Franklin Arms for the minor leaguers. And we used to sit in there. My first spring training was with my wife Karen's cousin, Tom Parsons.
Yes,
big,
Tom,
tall pitcher, 6'7". We would practice our autographs. I was 18 years old.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
No kidding.
We'd practice our autographs because, hey, we might, if we ever got to the big leagues, we're going to sign
have to know how to sign it.
18 years old.
What did Bob Pretty do?
Nothing, because, well, there's another character we can talk about in the poker game. Here's one other story in the poker game. We play all night, and Bob Pretty and I were roommates, so we finally go to bed and be the 2 of us, and we play head-to-head, and I deal the cards, and he'd drop out, and I said, you can't drop out, there's just 2 of us.
You got to keep going, Bob.
We're playing with Sam Jones in Bob Pretty's room, and Bob bought a brand new four shipes. I don't know if you remember this. Sam Jones bought a bunch of ribs in. He's eating those ribs. He's sticking them in Pretty's 4 shipes. They're sitting on by the bed.
Yeah, in his
he
new
filled
shoes.
it up with 4.
Using that as a wastebasket.
Yeah. And that was, by the way, the guy who tried to find the ace. We tried to find the ace of spades. It was Sam Jones. But Sam Jones
filled it up.
But Sam Jones had one of the biggest curveballs you've ever seen. It was one of those roundhouse, bigger. He pitched a no-hitter against the Pirates in 1955. Toothpick Jones. He had that toothpick, and usually he had a jar that he'd take out of the bullpen that had some very good hydrating fluids. And we'd sit there in the bullpen until they got in the game.
Sam was one of the funniest people.
One of the real baseball characters.
He was.
Toothpick Jones. Yep. Pitched for the Cubs and no-hit the Pirates. And we went down to the Dominican Republic with him for winter ball one year. And they couldn't pronounce his name right, so they'd cheer for him. And it sounded like it came out St. John. And I said, folks, he ain't no saint. I'm going to tell you that right now.
No saint.
No. Oh, goodness. All those stories.
Yeah.
All those stories.
Larry Shepard was our manager in AAA.
Yep. Larry, he helped me a lot. And he came up to manage the Pirates, and it wasn't the greatest fit at the big league level. But, boy, did he help me get to the big. He tolerated no nonsense from me. And that was good for me. Because, as you know, I lived my life with kind of full throttle most of the time.
I was afraid to play for him when I was young and in the minor leagues. Not in AAA yet. I was afraid to play for him. And then finally I got a chance to play for him. And he praised me so much to other people. I found out about it. I was a relaxed player with him.
How about that?
I played pretty good with him.
What do you think, Gene, makes a successful manager? What makes a successful manager, especially in this day and age? In the major leagues.
There are a lot of things involved. You have to be not necessarily just a player's manager. You have to be good and thoughtful and think things out for the players. And you have to be encouraging. You have to bring them in once in a while when they're not going well. And I think you have to blow smoke a little bit.
Yeah, you have to manage all these personalities, all individuals.
You do. You have to encourage the
psychologist.
player and tell them how good they can be and how much money they can make if they follow this stuff and stay at it. Confidence is a big thing with players, even after they get to the big leagues.
Even in this day and age, it's important, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. Boost that confidence level.
And patience as a manager, because you're going to get frustrated so many times. You got to have patience.
No question. No question. Especially if you work for George Steinbrenner.
There you go. Bill Verdon tells us stories about that when Bill managed for him. And there'd be calls down to the dugout every once in a while.
George was really difficult to work for, and some of the things you loved about him. And at times I miss him. He could never have enough meetings. He had meetings after meetings, and I can honestly say that a lot of good came out of them. Even though he pushed us, even when I was GM, when I was his advisor, We had meetings like you wouldn't believe. And we'd regurgitate some things so many times that we'd finally find something else. And,
all with the intent, of course, to win.
Yeah.
I mean, that was
So how many years as manager, field manager?
2, but I got fired both times. I got fired when we won.
That's right.
And how many years as GM?
With what?
General manager. How many years?
General manager. I was general manager for about 1.5 years, and I hired Hauser, and George couldn't live with him anymore, so he wanted to move Hauser, and Dick didn't want to come back. He gave him a choice to come back again after he fired him, and Dick said no, and I was going to hire the next manager again because he told me I could be the GM, and so I'm the general manager, and he won't let me hire the next manager. I said, wait a minute, I can't have you hire the manager. He's going to answer to you. So he said, well, then you're going to be the manager if you don't.
There's a threat.
It's like he's playing.
I didn't have much choice.
Playing chess with you.
Yeah,
my goodness.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. Some experience. When are you going to write a book?
I've been asked to write a few. I don't know if I can remember everything though. I don't want to write a tell-all. I want to write a book that's about the funny things in baseball.
Yeah.
The things that we can laugh about.
Stories.
There are a lot more.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's the stories. Yeah. Well, if we wrote the ultimate book, you and I would have to move to Spain.
Maybe.
But so many good times. I tell you, you come through. The major leaguers are great as teammates and everything, but you come through the minor leaguers with a bunch of guys. You really establish bonds because there's nothing going on around you basically but baseball. You're not making a ton of money, and it's you and those guys, and it's things that stay with you for a long time. The guys you meet in the minor leagues and come up through and all the same dream.
A lot of guys, we saw a lot of people that had big ability, like Norm Housley. Norm Housley was strong.
I played with
big
him.
Forearms, could run. He was athletic. He didn't put it together. Not enough pitch recognition. Larry Fidalgo.
Fido. Fido.
A lot of these guys, O'Brien.
Catcher from Boston.
We had so much talent with Pittsburgh. Parsons.
Tom Parsons,
had big ability.
Yep, he Karen's cousin. He pitched a little bit for us and a little bit for the Mets, and then her brother pitched for the Pirates. John Lamb came up and pitched for a while.
There's so many we saw.
So many guys.
Tom Butters was your friend and everything from Duke.
Yeah, our great friend who passed away last year. Yeah. He could throw hard, and he got hurt on the way to spring training. Yeah. And got released and wound up hiring Coach K, and the rest is history for him at Duke.
He had one of the great lines that he sent to Joe Brown. He said, if you send me another piece of mail with that contract that's not in it that I wanted, he said, if it's in a Pittsburgh piece of a letterhead, he said, if it's not there, I will never, ever sign another contract with you guys.
How about that?
Oh, I would never open up another piece of mail.
Yeah, that's right. And he was a guy signed by Branch Rickey personally. He was signed by Branch. Yep. There's a great story about him and Elmo Plaskett. Remember the catcher we had?
Yes, Elmo, another big ability guy.
Tom threw the knuckleball, and he struck out 4 batters, and then between the 4th and 5th strikeout, Plaskett came out and said, I want you to know one thing, Butsy, baby. I'm with you all the way. Because he couldn't catch any of the knuckleballs. Butters kept striking guys out. He couldn't get. I'm with you, Butsy.
That is unbelievable.
Pirates, Eric Weiss started this inning with a base hit and continues this hit parade with an RBI single. And the Pirates leading it now 13-1. And as we said, a lot of non-roster players were non-roster invitees involved at this point.
Gene, when you came to your first spring training camp, what did you think of Bill Mazeroski and the way he played second base?
It seemed like I never saw anybody get rid of the ball like that. It seemed like the ball bounced off his glove to first base.
It just changed directions.
Yeah. It was unbelievable, the quickness. Yeah. He was a great basketball player, too, they tell me. I didn't see it.
Great high school athlete.
I heard that.
Yeah.
Hey, I remember a guy in the minor leagues. You remember this guy, Tommy Ricks? R-I-N-K-S from Southern Cal or somewhere in California.
I don't remember him.
He had played a lot of baseball. He's the third baseman at Grand Forks, North Dakota. I'm the shortstop my first year. Tommy Rinks was hitting 425, and I was hitting 079. This is true. I was 7 for 109. He was hitting 425 after 1 month. I used to walk over, you know, when they throw ground balls from the first baseman over to the infielders.
Yep.
Well, when I walk over, he wouldn't talk to me. He thought I would put him in a slump. So afterwards, I thought, gee, that's funny. He was out 1 month later buying Little League bats in hardware stores. That's where we had to get them. And he was out buying Little League bats because Louisville didn't send any bats that light. He was out for 26, 27, 28-ounce bats.
No.
This is true. He ended up 234 for the season. I ended up 228.
Oh, my gosh.
I hit about 285 to get to 228. And then I became a prospect again.
How about that?
Then he talked to you.
That's true.
Wow.
And I'll never forget it, how he was so good. But he had played a lot of games. He thought he was tired in Grand Forks.
Pirates leading this one 13-1.
And by UPMC, life-changing medicine. Let's go Bucks!
Yeah, Francisco Cervelli, one-time Pirates Yankees catcher, now with the Pirates, playing for Team Italy in the World Baseball Classic. See a big offensive day for the Pirates.
Hey, Greg, one more story, and then we'll let Gene go. But we talked about Bob Pretty, one of our great friends and poker players. We're in Columbus, Ohio, at War Memorial Stadium. You're familiar with that neighborhood up there. And Bob had a rough night. We stayed up playing poker all night, and I guess he ran into some bad ice on top of that. So Larry Shepard was our manager, and we had to hide Bob from Larry Shepard. We put him in the tube that they rolled the tarp up on. So he's in there, and it's like 150 degrees in there. And Shepard said, "Get Pretty up." And I said, "No, you don't want Pretty today." He said, "Get him up." So I went, and I'm on my hands and knees while the game's going. I'm hollering into the end of the tube, "Bob, wake up." He fell asleep in there. So I'm
inside the tube,
with the tarp in. And it's 150 degrees, and I couldn't get him, so I took a fungo bat and I started beating on the tube, and there's dust flying out, and he comes out like a bear comes out from hibernation, sweating, and his face is on fire. And he went to warm up, and every pitch he threw, a big puff of dust came up. I'll never forget that as long as I live.
True story.
True story. That's one of the few true ones.
That's one of the all-time.
That's one of the all.
Is an all-time.
Gene, it's so great being with you, man. We're going to let you go. It's a real treat.
I thank you,
my friend. Yeah.
It's always good talking to you.
Gene, thanks so much. It really is a pleasure.
Thank you.
Gene
Fun
Michael,
being here.
a great stick. Gene Michael, 6 decades, a member of the Yankees organization, and still scouting for them, and such a long-time loyal lieutenant of former owner George Steinbrenner. The great Gene Michael, he and Steve go way back. Their minor league days of the Pirates. Gene Michael drafted by the Pirates in 1959 and played for the Pirates briefly in 1966. So now Edgar Santana on for the Pirates, and kind of a half swing bouncer. Well, we're talking about getting rid of the ball quickly, and we have seen that from the likes of Alan Hansen and Gift and Gopay a couple of times early this spring. Seen some real quick double plays turned, and in Gopay, that ball was barely in his glove and that throw was off.
Well, Greg, I got to admit my scorecard is not up to date. But what a treat.
That's okay.
What a treat to have Gene Michael. We tell the stories, but what a well-respected baseball man he is, too, all around Major League Baseball.
Yeah, really appreciate Gene Michael stopping in and spending some time, and he and Steve taking a trip down memory lane. That is fun stuff.
Yeah. A lot of fun. A lot of fun watching the Pirates run up a 13-1 score.
Now, this is the Edgar Santana. This is what you heard Ray Searage, if you were with us earlier, talking about that slider. We just saw that pitch where it took a direct left. Edgar Santana, a little bit of buzz around this Dominican, 25 years old.
Name to keep track of.
Well, 95 miles an hour. That was impressive.
That works.
Going to the bottom of the 8th inning. The Pirates all over the Yankees today, 13-1.